Hi, and welcome to If These Heels Could Talk. I'm Georgina with Solutions by Georgina.
And I'm Michelle with Bad Cat Digital. And today we have a very special episode of If These Heels Can Talk. There's no guest.
No, there's just us.
There's just us. And we have a really awesome announcement to make.
We do.
It's very positive.
It is.
It's good.
So I'll start with the first part of it.
Let's start with the first part of it.
The first part is thank you and goodbye.
Thank you and good night. Sounds very like a game show host from the 60s.
Yep.
But the point that we're making is after and then the second part is we'll also say hello. So
Yes.
After 179 episodes, this is episode 180.
It is 180.
We are saying thank you so much for sharing this last 4 years.
4 years.
4 years with us at If These Heels Can Talk. We've been through pandemic.
We've been through some things.
We've been through some things together. And I know that, it's so funny because after 4 years, I had 3 people walk up to me this week and say, thank you for the podcast this week.
And it's going to be out there.
And it is going to be out there. We're not taking it down. So you'll be able to reference it. You'll be able to send it to other people. We might take it down in a year, but we're not going to take it down quite yet.
No.
The website will be live. The episodes will still be there.
We'll
and
periodically post some things on social.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely going to become very, very.
We're not going to be recording any new episodes of If These Heels Could Talk. So that's actually really exciting because as in true entrepreneurial spirit, what ends up happening is that we end up starting new projects that we think are really exciting. And as we have grown through the last 4 years, individually and together, there are some things that we are just not willing to give up.
Yeah.
Like our relationship with each other,
Mm-hmm.
but also, some new projects that are really important to us and some priorities that are really important. So we are living our example.
Yes.
We are living what we talk about, which is to, set boundaries and walk away from things when they're good and not let anybody resent anything that's going on, so that we can, be honest about what we're doing and what we are moving forward. And Georgina's business has changed dramatically since we started.
It really has.
And Bad Cat and I have changed dramatically since we started. And so it was just time to kind of acknowledge those changes and what's coming up next for us.
One of the things I really want to bring into this conversation in space.
It's a sneeze.
I don't let it
I didn't
out.
mean to sneeze.
No.
Okay.
We're
Good.
good.
I'm good.
Not the sneeze. That wasn't what I was going to bring into the conversation. The other thing I was going to bring into the conversation was when we originally started this out, we created a partnership, an official partnership. And and we've talked about it before, but one of the things we had to do was all the ways that this could
end.
Yes.
What did he call them? The 5 Ds?
Yes.
And who was it that we worked with again? Kent Gustafson.
Yeah, Kent Gustafson.
Who's awesome. We highly recommend.
Fabulous. And then, but as having those guidelines in this partnership, I could see the value of that so many times when we had conversations of, are we reiterating that? What's next? We look at this again and reiterate.
And so what are the 5 Ds? I can name at least 3 of them.
Name the 3.
Okay. So death obviously is one.
Yes.
Business entities. These are the 5 Ds of how business entities end.
Yes.
And I would argue how just about anything ends, to be honest.
How relationships end.
Yes. But death is one, divorce is the other. If one of us had gotten divorced from our partners and then this entity had some monetary value, that would impact how the entity was organized.
What's the other one you got?
Discord, which is if we're just fighting and arguing all the time.
And dissolve.
Disinterest.
Oh yeah, that one too.
Disinterest was one party becomes like, man, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yep. How do we sell
But what was the 5th one?
I think it was dissolve.
To just dissolve a mutual agreement to walk away.
Just actually dissolves.
Okay, well, any other Kent Gustafson fans out there, or Kent himself, can correct us the next time you see us. Absolutely.
But so it was really having those foundations there.
Yes.
each time
because we had those conversations when we started.
Right. And so it meant we had that in the foundation of our conversations. We'd already had the most awkward conversations at the beginning, and they were awkward and
they were weird and uncomfortable.
And it's like, why does this matter? I have to say,
it totally matters.
Well worth it.
Yeah, well worth it. Well worth
it. Because when it came time for us to sit down and say, is this going where we want it to go?
Right.
Is this doing what we wanted it to do? Have we completed our mission?
Yeah.
When we started out, we did. We did a business plan. We had a mission and vision. We've revamped that a couple of times every year, just like we encouraged you to do every year. We were always
every year might be overstating it a little bit.
We had the conversation.
We had the conversation on the podcast every year.
Did. That's the point.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. I see.
Like, some people never pause even for
that's true. That's true. That's true.
Should we and can we? And so when it came around this time, we both kind of went, wow, like, look at all the stuff going on in your life. Does this really fit in there anymore? And is this moving us forward?
And if it does, and we were both open to the conversation. If it does, what does it look like moving forward? Because as our businesses have changed, we can feel the topics kind of pushing and pulling a little bit more. They were a little bit more cohesive at the beginning, and a little bit more on target, on audience. But as our business interests diverged and our thoughts start to diverge, and we're talking to different audiences, that makes it really hard to define the audience of the entity that is this podcast, which makes it really hard to communicate. So I think it comes at a really good time. And I also think that what you're doing with your coaching with the neurodivergent community is so exciting. And I am just loving your content on TikTok and your email newsletters and all the great stuff you put out there. So giving room in your brain and in your space for you to do some version of your content on some version of a streaming platform. I'm happy to walk away from this together to give you room for that.
And I was the same thing goes, equally, I'm watching your quilting shop come to life. And your grand opening is a month.
It's just away. If that
it's around the corner. And that, I mean, you were talking about that quilt shop when I first met you. I think the first time we went to lunch, you were talking about that. So this is a huge dream. And I could see, like, there's just, it didn't work any, time and energy for this. We're taking away time and energy for this new exciting thing. And that's never what I think in a friendship. That's not what you want. You want to be lifting each other. I want to be
in a partnership. You want to be lifting each other up. You want to be supporting each other's goals. And I think the best way to do that is to be able to say, either they're still aligning or they're not. We started this because we couldn't stop. We were sharing an office. And when we chatted with each other, individual team members that I have would overhear us and would say, that was just really interesting. What you were saying. That's why we started If These Heals. That is the whole reason that we started it. And now we're at a place where it still feels off the cuff. It still feels authentic. It still feels all those things, but it also doesn't feel like we're getting as much out of the conversation as we had. It feels like we're sharing some important things, but it also feels like we're recycling and we're kind of repeating ourselves, and we don't want to do that. So,
and when it came down to us we started to list out, I know I did. I started to list out the topics I'd like to dig deeper into.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like the whole world needed to hear me process through that and figure some of that stuff out. Like it was bigger. There, I had a parent die the last 4 years. Like things are different. I've been dealing with the state. Like, things are just very different.
Well, and our topic list started to diverge.
Yes.
Because our audiences are different, so so then we were going back and forth, and that just doesn't feel so. Overall, I think it's going to be really, really good. Now you'll still be able to see us together because we'll never give each other up.
No.
But that's part of the lesson of this, part of the lesson of walking away from something when you're still happy with it, when you can still be authentic about it, when you can still be honest about it. It means that it doesn't require some sort of chaotic drama filled, interpersonal crises. It doesn't require that. It simply requires two people to say, should we or shouldn't we? What are we getting? And it was a conversation because we talked about, do we just reduce the frequency? Do we keep it alive and just reduce the frequency? Or do we do this? Or do we do that? Or do we shift it? Do we try this? And ultimately at the end of the day, none of them landed right. And I think the fundamental thing of our interests have shifted to the point where it's no longer a shared audience that we're talking to. I think that in its essence is the challenge. And when I look back on some of the conversations, even over the last 2 year and a half, and how we wanted to kind of grow this, that's where we diverged, was in that audience piece. We could just never get it quite together. So it's really good to kind of acknowledge these things and healthy to be able to just, accept them and then say, okay, well, what's next for us?
And I have to thank you.
I have to thank you.
It was fun to dream this up.
This was so much fun.
If you had seen us 4 years ago, we're like, okay, what if it really takes off?
Yeah.
What if, what if we get hired for a bunch of speaking gigs?
What if? And the thing is that
we get to talk about this and that.
And it never happened that way. And that didn't matter. I was still really satisfied with it and still really new. Because the once in a while that people would talk to me, I had somebody recognize, I remember I was standing in line for my first COVID vaccine and the nurse recognized my voice from the podcast. I had never met her, but she was a friend of somebody that I knew, kind of, sort of, who listened once in a while. And it just was kind of cool. So that, those kinds of things I think carry with us a little bit.
And I want to thank our listeners. There is a small group of you loyal,
dedicated,
and you've sent us questions and you've engaged, and you've been our guests, and thank you.
It's been wonderful. We really, really appreciate it.
Yes.
And I hope you continue to follow under the Solutions by Georgina brand and the Bad Cat Digital brand. I hope you continue to seek out the thought leadership that Georgina is putting out there, the things that Bad Cat will be releasing in the next couple of months.
And your quilt shop.
And then, of course, Seems Like Quilting, if that applies to you. But again, we're talking about different groups of people.
Seems Like Quilting's going to have some fun content, period. I just have this.
Seems Like Quilting's going to have some fun content. I've got a few videos of my mother that are pretty good. But that sounds like a threat. I didn't mean it to sound like a threat.
No, but they're entertaining.
Yes.
So there are a couple of things I wanted to share with you.
Okay.
So this weekend, it was really funny. Somebody sent me a video about Swedish death cleaning. Whole opposite subject.
Yes, love the Swedish death cleaning.
Right. So, and part of this is a little bit of that. We're acknowledging that we're
cleaning up.
Right.
Yep.
And Amy Poehler has a new show out about.
Yes, she does. I saw that. It's so cool.
Did you see the interview?
I didn't. I saw like a snippet of it on TikTok.
So it was great. In the interview, they asked her, "How did you and Tina Fey ever meet?" And she goes, well, it was at Second City. Yeah. It wasn't though. She goes, I had friends at Second City who said, you have got to go hang out with Tina Fey. You two are meant to be friends. And she said, we went to lunch and we were like, oh my gosh, we're meant to be friends. And she said, so we purposefully work hard to create projects so that we get to actually see each other and hang out. Yeah. And I just laughed and I went, that is Michelle and I. Yeah. I like, that's how this started.
With a lot more money.
Yeah. They have a lot more money now, but they didn't at the time.
Yeah, no,
And so don't be surprised. I guess I thought of that. I went, I won't be surprised if we pop up with
something
projects,
else.
Like little ways that we come together for the community to do things and so forth. So don't be surprised in our social if we pop into each other's spaces.
Yes,
and maybe
for
have
sure.
some little interviews or conversations. And there was another. So I was reading Becoming an Entrepreneur.
Okay.
Jim Collins he updated it. He revisited
Really?
it. It's really good. It's called B 2.0.
Okay.
And it was really good. But there's a comment he had from Bill about relationships. And he said, great relationships. If you were to ask each person in the relationship who benefits more from the relationship, both would answer, I do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because I thought of that.
We're going to get teary. You're going to make me cry.
Well,
you're going to make me cry. Don't make me cry. This is like, there's no snot bubbles on YouTube.
Okay, you're not going to snot.
I'm not a pretty crier. I'm an ugly crier.
I'll give you my
You do. Yeah,
you do. I'll share.
I feel like it would.
It's cotton.
Yeah.
It washes.
It washes.
It washes.
Okay. So one thing I did want to ask.
Yeah.
I'm totally asking off the cuff because I know you like to be prepared. Yep. What was our favorite? What was your favorite, not episode, but favorite tidbit that we shared? What was like, if you could leave people with one thought, what was your thing that you're like, that is the thing?
I actually wrote it down. It's on the section about history.
You did prepare.
Not really, no, but it was in here anytime. No, it might not be on this page. Well, then I'll just have to wing it. But it was perfect. It sums it up really nicely. It was at the beginning of COVID. And we were both just like, what the what?
What
and
the
each
what?
Week was what the what? And,
yeah.
And life is inconsistent.
Yeah.
Life is ever changing.
Yeah.
And it can be moving in the most beautiful direction. It does not have to. That is what I'm taking away from this whole experience and from what we've talked about throughout that time and much after, is the fact that it is moving all the time. It is evolving. It is reiterating itself. History demonstrates that so many times over and over again.
Yeah.
And it was my, prior to this stagnant thinking, that thought this only happened rarely. And when it did, it was immensely drama laden and it was being pushed on me.
Sure.
And that this podcast and this whole experience has taught me that isn't it at all. That happens at times. But a lot more of the times, there's great luck and opportunity. And that's what this was. This was a huge luck and opportunity.
Yeah.
And we leaned into it. And we've talked about that numerous times throughout, about luck and opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think the number one thing with everybody is communication.
Yeah.
The only reason we can have this conversation is because we've always been working on having upfront conversation about how we're feeling about things at times. So I hope we're demonstrating what that could look like without the drama, without the pain, without all the suffering.
Yeah. With just honoring the joy of something.
Yeah.
And acknowledging that you don't have to try and hang on to it for it to still be joyful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. That's what I would wrap up. Please, I had to say.
Well, I still love, it was one of our very earliest episodes. We called it Anxiety Glitter.
I do.
And I still love that. I still love that. Do we? That's cool.
Okay.
I still love that because what that episode was really about, it was about kind of the extra pressure of the holidays and family things. And when you're running a business, and then you have that on top of it. But what it was really about was boundaries. And before we really had the language for it, the thing that I didn't understand, or I struggled to understand about boundaries when we started, and kind of something that I've come to understand more deeply as we've gone through, is that boundaries don't massively grown in other ways too. One of the things that I've come to understand is that boundaries, like, we don't put boundaries on other people. We put boundaries on ourselves in terms of what we will accept. And if we try to put boundaries on other people, they're going to fail. And we're going to be unhappy, and we're going to be resentful, and the other people are going to be resentful. Because it's not about, I won't listen to you say that about. It's not about, you can't say that about me. It's that I won't listen to you say that about me. It's not about, you're not allowed to touch me. It's that I won't let you continue to touch me, or whatever the boundary is. Those are some really obvious ones. But when we get to family and business and the holidays, and we get to things like, we get to things like, I'm not going to let anybody talk about my friends like that. So when you talk about yourself like that in front of me, it makes me feel like I'm letting you talk about you, my friend, like that. And we've had a conversation like that.
Yeah, we have.
And so I think that saying, you do you, man, you make your decisions and you do you. And here is where my limit goes. I am able to participate in whatever you doing you looks like until this point. But my participation is not, I have no expectation that my participation will change your behavior. And that second part,
Ooh,
that
that's
expectation,
nice. Yes.
that because I have a boundary, you're going to change, that expectation I struggled with for a really long time. And so it started, we've talked about it a lot on this podcast in a variety of different ways, with a variety of different languages.
It's woven in.
But I think it started with anxiety glitter. I really do. And I think that all of that work, has enabled a lot of different things in my life. It's changed my relationships with the team at Bad Cat. It's changed my relationships with family members. It's changed my relationships with in-laws and clients. It's changed a lot of different things. And I think that is one thing that I will walk away from this experience with being very proud of, having shared that with people so that, they could get the benefit from that as well. Mm-hmm. If they should choose to. I can't control that.
If the timing's right.
If they choose, we all make those choices, right? So, but anxiety glitter, I still love that phrase. I still think it's a great phrase. I still think it's a great phrase. Yeah, it's like just glitter on a little, sprinkle on a little bit more anxiety glitter on top of that, just a little bit of glitter of anxiety on top of everything else that's going on.
It'll always go back.
It totally makes sense. It makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
So thank you to everybody. It has been an absolute joy, the privilege to be heard and be listened to. And I really want to say thank you very much for that. And thank you to Georgina for keeping us organized. See, she's the one who takes notes. I just talk. She takes these insane, super cool notes. Yes. If you want to understand more about this note taking, follow her on TikTok because she talks about it a lot.
Yes.
And
well, you've been throwing out some fun stuff on TikTok.
Oh, once in a while.
I was gonna say,
once in a while.
More. Again, you get to be more in that authentic.
Well, you get to be because you're not, it's not a joint thing. You're not representing multiple, things.
Well,
so
it's not even representing Bad Cat.
No, not really. It's just mine. It's just personal stuff.
Yeah, just say. So if you want a little more,
maybe a little too personal sometimes. Just saying.
Well, is that part of what
I think that's part of what TikTok is. But thank you everybody for listening. We've really appreciated spending these 4 years with you. And so that would be If These Heels Could Talk, walking away for the last time.
Thank you.